For a while now, the conversation around AI has been totally dominated by one big question. Are you ready? But you know what? What if that's not even the right question to be asking? In this explainer, we're going to reframe that whole idea. We're moving beyond just preparing for AI and diving into how we can build a future where we don't just survive change, but actually thrive on it.
So, here's our roadmap. First, we're going to redefine what our goal should even be. Then, we'll dive into what resilience looks like for us as individuals, in our workplaces, and for our communities. And to wrap it all up, we'll uncover the practical, repeatable cycle that actually makes this all work. So, let's get into it. All right, first up, let's get past this whole idea of just being ready. It's really time to shift our thinking from this fixed state of preparation to a much more dynamic process of adaptation. I mean, we've all heard this question a million times, right? It kind of implies there's this finish line, a point where you've learned enough or prepared enough and you're done. But with AI, that finish line is constantly moving. Being ready today doesn't mean a thing for tomorrow. So let's break down the difference, because it's a big one. Readiness is static. It's like being prepared for a thing you know is coming. But resilience, that's dynamic. It's the ability to handle the unexpected, to adapt and actually grow stronger when things are always changing. It's not a one-time setup. It's a continuous skill. And this is the crucial point. AI resilience isn't just about bouncing back. It's about learning through the disruption itself. It's about seeing every challenge not as a setback, but as valuable data that actually fuels innovation. It's an active, ongoing process of evolution. So, where does all this resilience even begin? Well, it starts with us. It starts at the individual level. True societal resilience in the age of AI is really built on a foundation of our personal mindsets. It pretty much comes down to three core mindsets. First, seeing AI as a partner for lifelong learning. Second, having the emotional resilience to navigate all this uncertainty. And third, embracing a growth mindset, where mistakes aren't failures, they're just data. Put them all together, and that's the bedrock of personal adaptability. Here's a really powerful example of this in the real world. This healthcare worker didn't just learn a new tool. They took that fear and transformed it into an opportunity. They ended up enhancing patient care, and then, this is the best part, they helped their coworkers do the exact same thing. That, right there, is individual resilience in action. Okay, so let's scale this up. We've talked about the individual, now let's talk about the organization. How do we design entire workplaces that don't just install AI, but actually evolve with it? You know, the most resilient organizations are all built on a few key pillars. They create a culture where it's safe to experiment. They're super transparent to build trust, and they invest heavily in their people. At their very core, they create teams that blend the best of human intuition with the raw power of AI analytics. And this is a huge but, none of this works without a strong ethical foundation. Resilience without ethics is just fragile. It's about turning these big, abstract principles into concrete actions. So transparency means you need explainable algorithms. Accountability means someone is clearly responsible for mistakes. And fairness means you're actively designing systems to reduce inequality, not make it worse. Think about this example. Instead of laying people off, a city department retrained its employees to supervise a new AI system. They didn't replace human expertise. They elevated it. They gave it superpowers. This is a perfect model of how to augment your workforce, not just automate it away. Okay, we've covered individuals and organizations. Now let's zoom out even further to the community level. How do we weave AI into our social fabric so that it actually strengthens life for everyone? A resilient, AI-enabled community really rests on four interconnected pillars. It all has to start with equitable access and collaborative education. Then, you reinforce that with active public participation, which in the end is what fuels real collective innovation to solve local problems. And here's what this can actually look like on the ground. Just imagine a local lab where students, seniors, and business owners are all working together. They're not just learning about AI in a classroom. They're using it to build things that really matter for their community. That is grassroots innovation at its absolute best. So, we've explored resilience at every level. But how do we make it last? How do we make it stick? Well, that brings us to our final section, the engine that drives this entire process.
This might be the most important takeaway of all. Resilience is not a destination you arrive at. It's a living, breathing, self-correcting loop that you have to embed into your habits, your organization, and your community to make sure you never, ever stop evolving.
And here is that loop. This is the playbook. It starts with awareness, just recognizing that a change is happening. That leads you to adaptation, where you learn new skills. Next, you assess. You check in on your progress. Based on that, you take action. And that action feeds right back into the loop, creating sustained resilience. This 5-step cycle, this is the engine of progress. Ultimately, at the end of the day, this is what it's all about. We have the power to make sure the AI revolution becomes a positive human evolution. And we do it by being intentional, by embedding our core values like learning, ethics, and inclusion into every single thing we build and do.
So let's just leave that whole conversation about people versus machines behind us. The real question is so much more profound. As we integrate this incredibly powerful technology into our lives, what kind of society, what kind of culture, and what kind of people do we choose to become?